Okay, well, this is food plot number one. This is a corn plot. This is about an acre in size, and this is in front of my cabin here, and I hoped that I would get to watch these deer come in here and feed, and it appears that they're much more nocturnal on this plot because, as you can see, my cabin's right there, and I think they just don't feel safe with the lights and the activity there. So this year we're gonna have to adjust this a little bit and maybe put some screening material. But as I go through here, I'm finding probably about 80% of my corn is eaten up, and these guys are munching on it. There's tracks everywhere, but there's still some corn on some of these stalks. So far so good. It's holding up, but I think that I'm gonna come out of the year and they're gonna have cleaned this up, and probably not corn, at least on this plot. I've got another corn plot on the back side. It's an acre, and then I got one behind me as well. So I'm gonna check those out and see how they're doing. But man, they are hammering this late season corn. There's corn stalks everywhere. I see corn cobs. I'm sure the coons and the crows and the other birds are coming in here as well. And they're definitely eating it up. It's been doing really well for them. They're gonna come out of here fat and happy. I'm gonna head over to my soybean field that I overseeded with rye. We're gonna take a look at that next. Okay, so now I'm in my soybean field, and man, they are hammering this. As I look through here, all these plants are all picked off. There's every now and then there's one here, there's a little pod here, and I tell you what happened with this is I really didn't get my weeds under control here. I came out here, I did spray it, and I tilled it under, and I planted. This is a broadcast field here. And what happened was I didn't get my weeds under control. And then when I put my seed down, we had a long drought period this year where I didn't get enough moisture to get these soybeans to really get going. So they were pretty drought stressed. Nonetheless, all these stalks that you're seeing are all soybeans. I did get some growth here, and honestly, it came out much better than I thought it would. But the pod production wasn't really what I was hoping for. They weren't big and healthy and robust. The pods and the seeds were a little small, and it definitely was due to the drought. And then right at about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before they were gonna finish, we got some frost, and I got a heavy frost, and it just knocked them back. So as I look through here, I barely see any pods. They've annihilated this. So my beans did not make it. They didn't have the volume I expected on this field. This is called front field. Hopefully the back fields are doing a little better, but this one not so good. They've cleaned it up. But underneath here, I've got rye, and here's an example. You can see this. They're down here digging, and they're digging up that green. I can see a little green right here. This is rye coming up. So the supplemental rye is doing the job, and not only is it feeding these deer now, what I'm hoping is in the spring, this is gonna be a quick early green up, so they'll have something fresh to eat. And then by May, I'm gonna have 4 or 5 feet of growth here, and then I'm gonna use that to just roll over. I'm gonna broadcast buckwheat into it, and then I'm gonna crush it, roll it down, and then I'm gonna get a growth of buckwheat, which is going to further suppress these weeds. It's going to add organic material. It's going to get my carbon up. It's going to hold moisture, and then I'm going to crush that, and this will be a brassica plot next year. So I started this spring's food plots last fall, getting them set up. So while I don't have a lot of pods here, there's very few left. I got a little bit of green, and I'm setting up my soil for next spring. So hey, let's go check out another food plot. This is Joe's plot. This is a tillage radish plot. Let's see how that one's doing. Okay, well this is, we call this Joe's plot. This was named after a buddy of mine from Pittsburgh, Joe Schmitzer, he's the first guy that ever hunted this plot. And we didn't have anything planted here at the time, but so we just named it Joe. But this is a radish, tillage radish. Early on, we put some chicory down here, some white clover, got burned out. It was just too dry, too hot. So then I came in, I killed it, and as best I could, I tilled it up, and I put buckwheat down, and that didn't take. We got some buckwheat growing, but we didn't get a great growth of buckwheat. And then we came in after that, and we drug it. I'll try to find some footage if I have that. And we drug it, and then we came in and we planted tillage radish and rye. And any of this kind of brown stuff you're seeing is rye. And you can see they're coming in here and they're digging on those spots, and what they're doing there is probably digging for the few bulbs that we did get on this tillage radish. One thing that I learned on the tillage radish was I planted too heavy of a seeding rate. It was so thick, I had a lot of foliage, but because they were competing, they didn't take really well. I didn't get a lot of the bulbs, so I'm not getting the late season draw that I was hoping. I'm sure some of this activity, some of this digging that you see over here, or they're coming in here and they're trying to get what they can get out of here. But I didn't have the great bulb production that I was hoping for. So lesson learned there, guys. Don't overseed. I know I do. You have a tendency to want to seed heavy, and you want to make sure you got something growing here. But these radishes really need some space, and they don't want to compete with each other. So they didn't do too well. So lesson learned on this. So next year, what I'm going to do here is I have this rye that you're seeing. All this stuff right here. This is rye, and that's going to come up, and it's going to green up early in the spring. And it's going to choke out the weeds, and hopefully we'll get a good start. So again, on this plot, I have really sandy soil on all over my farm. My goal is to start to increase that carbon content in the ground, in the soil. It's really sandy here, and I'm going to have the organic material up, more carbon in the ground. It's going to hold water, and that's the goal here. I won't be facing these drought situations that I have here. So this will come up, and probably in May, I'll show this again. I should have, waist high rye growing in here. I'm going to overseed that into buckwheat, and then I'm going to roll this over, and I'm going to get about 7 or 8 weeks of growth with the buckwheat, and then I'll overseed back into that, and I'll crush that, and I'll have brassicas in here again next fall. So that's the goal here. So I'm really working on soil amendment. You've heard a term as green manure. You're going to be hearing me talking about regenerative farming. Basically, it's all about getting the organic material in the ground, taking advantage of the nitrogen that's already in the sky, getting it into the soil, using plants to do that, never having bare soil, and just improving the overall quality of the soil and the water holding capacity. My goal is that I'm going to be able to get away from all the fertilizer and all the herbicides like Roundup that I've been spraying on here. So that's the goal. And we're going to be talking about that. Regenerative farming and regenerative food plotting is a term you're going to hear me talking about a lot. So let's get on to the next plot, and let's see what that cornfield and that soybean field looks like. So here I'm at a project that I've been doing. This is a hinge cut. And I chose this spot here because up on this ridge, there's a little bit of a 35-foot ridge right there. It's trap rock, and you could get a nice little elevation up there. But when I looked down through here, through these white oak, it was just really wide open. So I came in here, I started hinging, but look at the tracks in here already. Look at all these deer are coming in, and you can see the trails. They're working their way through, and I'm sure they're coming in for the woody browse that are on the tips of these trees. And yeah, here's an example. See this right there? See how that's nipped off there? Again here, all over up here. They're coming in here, and all this food, this is maple tips. This is all up high out of the reach. So I came in here and I felled these trees, and I just randomly did it. I didn't really have a pattern. I thought I'd get them on the ground, get some horizontal cover, and you can definitely see I have that. See how thick that is. This was wide open before, and they're feeding on it. I'm gonna maybe cut some trails once I see maybe the areas that they're wanting to work their way through, but I'm punching holes in the sky, and you hear me talking about that a lot. And there's still some room. I'm gonna space out these oaks. I'm gonna take out the ones that are subordinate, maybe aren't straight, and allow the other their brethren next door to crown out. So when I look up like this and I start to see these treetops touching like that, you got one there, these are all touching. I'm gonna start taking out these trees like this and get it out of the woods and open that up, and let that one express itself and let this one express itself. So just a lot of fun. I really enjoy coming in here doing this, and there's a lot of ways you can do it. I just start cutting and kind of figure it out as I go, but I like what's happening here. It's good to see that these deer are already using it. This time of the year too, it's just a great time of the year to come out and look around and see what you got and start to confirm some of the things you thought This is a trail here, and on the north end is Joe's plot, and on the south end is my big field, and it has corn and soybeans. And I never hunt this, and I don't walk it on because I just stay out of here. So I wanted to thicken this stuff up down here because I knew that they were using this trail, and this confirms it. And then this trail here is going through a cut. There's a little bit of a saddle up there in the timber, and as I assume they were doing, they're using that as that travel route. So I'm going to have a stand up top there because on the south wind I can access this, and I can be on this side, the north side of this trail. And this year, if there's one thing I was missing, there was so much southeast wind. I wasn't set up for south winds. Most of my stands are set up for northwest winds because that's prevailing. But this is going to be a perfect spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thicken it up here. I'm going to thicken it up there, and I'm going to force these deer. I'm going to funnel them through here with some stand sites that are up top that are taking advantage of that southern wind. So it's just another option. But being out here in this time of the year, you can really see this, and you can start to create that mental plan. Write it down. I got most of it up here, but write it down and come up with a plan and start to execute on it. And it's a process. I'm not going to do this all in 1 year, but it's confirming what I already thought I knew. All right, let's get out to this big field. Okay, this little 1/4 acre field, I'm gonna call this Nick's plot. I don't really have a name for it, but my buddy Nick, he's my new buyer agent that's working for me. He helped me plant this, and he was on one of my videos. So I'm gonna call this Nick's plot, and I have a stand right up there in that set of popple. Actually killed 2 deer off of this spot. And this is a nice spot, except for it's really open. And one thing I've learned about this is they were very nocturnal on this. I put up a licking branch. I got a lot of pictures of bucks working that, and they're coming off the trail where I did that hinge cut, and they're coming out here, or they're coming out of the tamarack swamp down here, and they're popping out and they're looking in here. And I think if they don't see anything out here, they're taking off. So this year, I'll outsmart them a little bit. I'm gonna cordon this off, and I'm gonna compartmentalize my property with some type of screening material. So I'm gonna start using a combination of getting some switchgrass growing in here because these fields are really open, as you can see. I'm gonna get some vertical height. I'm gonna have separation. I'm gonna have a field up there that is all cleared, that is dead. I've got soybeans here, I got corn here, and I got soybeans on the other side. And I'm gonna have a couple, walls of vegetation. So I'm going to use some blocking screening material, and I'm going to cut this off so they can't see this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to compartmentalize, initially at least. I'm going to have Nick's plot. I'm going to have a plot up there of probably brassicas. I'm going to rotate my brassicas, this corn and soybean. So I'm going to have walls between them so they can't see across here. And that'll hopefully encourage movement, get them moving in through here, especially during the rut when these bucks are seeking these does, and get them moving out of my sanctuary, which is that 40-acre parcel back there. I don't go back there. There's a tamarack swamp. It's a natural boundary, and I leave it alone. I'm just going to leave them in there. It's maybe 25 acres. But this is where the food, so, I got access down on this side coming in. Typically, I've got a northwest wind, which is blowing that way, so I'm easily able to access this way up in the distance. If you can see it, there's a box blind. I'm probably going to put another banks down here someplace and with some screening to get myself in here so they can't see me. But that stand was productive on the right wind. Man, they never knew I was there. And they were coming out here and they were bouncing between the corn, soybeans, and this green field. I didn't have enough greens. Next year, I'm gonna have more. So I'm gonna go out and check this cornfield out and this soybean field and see how it's faring. It's probably picked clean. So a mistake I made here was, I don't know if it was a mistake, I plowed it up, dried it out. I broadcast this, I drug it, and it just took forever for me to get any rain. And as you can see, not much beans are making it past January. So what's the lesson here? Well, more moisture, don't dry out my soil, retain the moisture I've got. But man, they are in here, they're using it like crazy. But I didn't make it through January before it was gone. So they cleaned the plate. I gotta get more food out here. So in this field, I didn't put the rye overseed. I will this spring. I'm gonna frost seed this, but I want to get this growing again, amending my soil, organic material, holding on to that moisture. I'm going to overseed this, get my rye growing up about May or so, or maybe June. I'm gonna overseed it with buckwheat. I'm gonna roller crush it, and I'm gonna get that buckwheat growing. And this is gonna be probably a brassica field is the plan here. But again, same plan, amending soil, carbon, input carbon, organic material, moisture, that's the goal. And hopefully I'll be doing less tilling in the future. I'm gonna see how it works. I'll let you know. Okay, I'm going into the second cornfield, seeing how things are doing. Same thing, things are picked clean. This cob here is empty, but this cob here, it's got some corn on it. So I don't know, I'm looking, here's a cob here, empty, empty, full, full. You know, I would say 80% of this is picked clean, but I'm making it into January with plenty of corn. The spacing, as you can see, I left spaces in here, and I got a 1940s vintage John Deere 2-row planter that we pieced together with Band-Aids and whatnot, but we got her done, and it was the most efficient thing, but we got actually some decent corn. So I noticed a lot of the bucks were chasing does through this, so they were using it as a bedding area, you know, and getting away from those bucks. But it was also a visual break between soybean number 2, field number 2, and number 3 that we're going to. So let's go check that out. Okay, you guys probably saw me setting this up in one of my videos, my Banks 2-man. And the purpose of this was to come in from my southeast corner down here and get up into that tree, blind with a north wind, and they'll never know I was here. This is a big open fallow field that I should have planted in greens. It will be planted in something. And then I have a little visual break here with the corn. I'm gonna recommend that I don't do this again. They ate it, so it's not the best break. But here is soybean field number 3. And as I look through here, again, picked clean. There's not a bean on here, very few. I'd say 98% of them are totally picked. So we're gonna need to overseed this again. This will be overseed in rye, same thing, rye, overseed buckwheat, crush it, get the buckwheat growing, overseed that in something, crush it, and that's gonna be the process here. I probably need to get down here into this woods with a chainsaw, and this needs to be thickened up because I could see, when I'm up in that stand, I could see 200-300 yards into that. It needs to be thicker. So I don't know if I'm gonna come in there and start hinging that, or maybe hire a forester, come in and mark some trees and see if I can't get a little bit of money for the timber. But it's pretty low quality stuff, not a lot of good stuff in there. So okay guys, well, that's the update. You know, mid-January 2021, first year with Indian Creek. Can't wait for the food plot season to begin. I'm geeking out on it. Soil health is my thing. You guys are going to hear me talking about this more and more and more. Regenerative food plotting, and I'm going to talk more about that. So look up the word, look up regenerative farming, start to learn about it. You're going to hear me talking about it. Hey, I'm Neil Hauger, and I'm a land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate here in my own home farm on year 1. We're looking at the assessment. I really appreciate that you're watching. Please hit that button down there, or is it over there someplace? Hit that button and subscribe. Smash the like button if you like this. Give me a call, send me messages. I'd love to talk to you about it. As always, thanks for watching.